If a friend behaves a certain way that a family member would, you would cut them off immediately.
Yo, I would cry. I mean,
You'd cry what? That
I
you're not
mean,
kissing.
no. What?
But your lover would cheat on you.
Yeah, it's a question.
10 times.
It's like, no, let's not have this conversation, babe. You just think about it. We'll respect whatever decision you make.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, if a friend betrays you, it's like, out.
The sapiosexual platter.
We've all been taught to fight for love, but not our friendships. Romantic partners get grace, therapy sessions, second chances, but not a friend. One slip up, one strike, and they're out. On today's episode, we are examining why this is the case. Why do we give our best to our lovers, but second hands to our friends? My name is Shatani Somalakai.
And I am Belsa Abo Ame.
Welcome to the
sapiosexual platter.
Yeah, would you like some tea?
Please. Go party.
Sorry again. This live, I think it's still honey tea at this point, so just a little bit and then I'll pour some more. Yeah, just a little bit for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, would you swim 100 rivers for me, climb a mountain? I gotta get the peanuts, that thing. Lover songs.
I'll do more.
Oh, guys. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think?
About what?
Our topic. I mean, people's, the weight of friendship in people's mind relative to or versus intimate relationships.
I do think relationships have a lot of weight in people's minds. However, the awareness of the weight is what is the issue. Or like subconsciously there's a knowing that, you know, this friendship can put me from 0 to 100, but we don't have the awareness of the immensity of what the friendship can do and why it's needed. Like when I was preparing for this episode, I listened to a sermon by Joshua Salman, Apostle Joshua Salman.
That's who we're listening to at the moment.
I know.
Yo, that guy is powerful.
He's too powerful.
Yes.
And he spoke about destiny relationship versus seasonal relationship. And I thought it was just so profound. Because when I was thinking about today, I was like, okay, what would I want the impact or the teaching impacted upon the audience to be? And I needed it to be framed in a positive way. And I just thought that the framework of seasonal relationships versus destiny relationships is so beautiful to lead the conversation, because a lot of the times, like you said, we tend to cut off friends when they do certain things. Like if a friend betrays you or does something wrong to you, you cut them off immediately. But your lover would cheat on you.
Yeah, it's a question.
10 times.
It's like, no, let's not have this conversation, babe. You just think about it. We'll respect whatever decision you make.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, if a friend betrays you, it's like out.
It's an out thing. And I thought the whole seasonal and destiny relationship, it's great to help people govern what relationship they should keep in their lives and what relationship they should cut off. Because we tend to cut off everybody when it comes to friendship. So even if somebody is tied into your destiny or ushering your destiny forward or into the calling and the purpose and the greatness that it's meant to be, you'd find that they'll do something that maybe triggers your ego and they're out. And cutting them off, it's like cutting off the vessel of your destiny and making it harder to arrive to that future that you are meant to have.
But why do you think that there isn't an awareness of the weight of friendships? What do you think contributes to that way of thinking and that way of doing things?
I think it's just maybe how we are raised. The whole thing, blood is thicker than water. I think people have even misinterpreted this phrase of blood is thicker than water because I don't think how the collective consciousness sort of, what is it called, defines or understands it is the way that it was intended. So I think because you think, oh, blood is thicker than water, there's certain things that your family would do that you would have more patience for than when a friend does it.
Yeah.
If a friend behaves a certain way that a family member would, you would cut them off immediately. But then you would put the weight of blood on yourself to stay in that relationship or fight it because it's for family. And then I think with lovers as well, with a lover, when you meet a boyfriend or fiancé, wife, you fight for those relationships as you would family, because in your head, subconsciously, the aspiration is to build a family with that person. So then you feel like, I'm going to have kids with this person one day, or I plan on having kids. We plan on being married. So automatically they become family. So you stay the course and you fight through different challenges, different seasons. Then there's just a dispensability that comes with friendship. Why, I don't know, but it's just the whole blood is thicker than water thing that can maybe make me understand. And I don't know how we're cultivated also as society that, you know, a man and a woman come and join, or a partner and a partner these days. It could be man and man, woman and woman come in and join and create something. And also the intimacy of kissing, having sex, which you don't do in friendships.
Yeah.
Bonds people more energetically and spiritually. That it's harder to cut ties when you tie yourself to a person in that way. Whereas in a friendship, you wouldn't experience that depth of intimacy.
Yo, I would cry. I mean,
You'd cry what?
I mean, no. What? No, I just mean like for the friendships I've lost, it was extremely painful because even the investment was deeper than, you know, in an intimate relationship. Because I think I've been single most of my life.
Yeah.
And so most of my predominant relationships have been friendships.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess this topic actually is close to my heart because I've observed that quality of people where you're like, you know, when you have a particular friend and they get into an intimate relationship or they get a boyfriend, they kind of disappear. You know, they're not
You do that
there.
too, though.
I do that.
You know you do that.
It's a bit of fun. But
It was like disappear.
yeah, but like a long-term disappearance, you know, even without an acknowledgement of, you know, some, like, even just without an effort to say, like, you know, every Friday we used to go out and do something. Now that you have this person, it's like that Friday is no longer available for doing those things, you know. And I think it has to do with, like, maybe, like, being brainwashed, like, just the brainwash of, like, of Hollywood, of just different movies that we used to watch that place romantic relationships above all, even above sometimes family, where people would elope, you would leave the family behind. So it's almost like, I think what happens to a person is, like, internally they just think like there's this ideal to that aspiration you talked about, and it comes at a cost of everything else in your life, and you have to demonstrate a loyalty to that by cutting everybody off, or devoting all your time and energy to, like, that one person, you know. So I think a part of that culture comes from the brainwash of Hollywood.
I found it interesting that you said that with friendships you would cry, and I think I used to be that person as well. But when I was listening to Apostle Joshua Salmon, seasonal relationship versus destiny relationships, it made so much sense. And I think even now, coming into adult life, I understand relationships that I thought were destiny relationships ending, that, oh my God, that was a seasonal relationship. And I just have so much piece of it, that it was so good while it lasted. And what he said about seasonal relationship and destiny relationships, he was saying that seasonal relationship come for a specific purpose that season.
Yeah.
So a lot of the pain point and the confusion with people is that they want to take seasonal relationships and turn them into destiny relationships. You then, obviously, anything that is not of God would then be removed, because if it served its purpose, it's time for it to dissolve. And then we wouldn't want that to dissolve. And then we would hold on tight onto that relationship or that friendship, as you said. And for me, the revelation was so good, because I was like, oh, that explains the different relationships that were actually meant to be seasonal, but because we had same interests or values, I stuck it through when I didn't have to. And he said that something that used to bless you would then come and curse you, because you are refusing to listen to the spiritual message of this too has ended. So it's quite interesting, because I then look at it as love affair. I then took love affair versus friendships, and I was like, okay, then I would want to govern my awareness and consciousness to say, may I attract destiny relationships? And when I get a seasonal relationship, to have an awareness that this is a seasonal relationship, because then that can form a foundation of the level of effort and fighting for you place in it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we would then say, oh, fight for this relationship or this friendship as you would do a love affair. But then it's just like you're fighting for a seasonal relationship. So then how does the audience at home assess a friendship that is worth fighting for? And if that friendship is tied into the individual's destiny.
Yeah, that's a powerful point. I guess for me, it's like, it's just making the assumption that the audience values friendship in that way. So I want us to start off from that point of, do people believe that, you can have a friendship that's just not as powerful. I don't know what the right terminology is, but that plays such a critical role in who you are.
Yeah.
That it's worth fighting for. That you must invest in it, and the quality of it is something that you should be concerned about.
Yeah.
Because I think my qualm is the quality of it. People can agree that they are destiny friendships. I think I have those in my life where there's a common understanding of, there's places where we align and there's a synergy.
Yeah.
But my complaint would still be, you don't pour enough into this.
Yeah.
The quality of it isn't a great one.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the thinking is, you don't have to do this for this friendship. You don't have to. You have to do it for your lover, though.
Yeah.
So you will buy your lover this extravagant gifts,
Yeah.
and you will go out of your way to make them happy. But you're not going to do that for the destiny relationship.
Yeah.
It's treated more like a business partner.
Yeah.
Like, let's just meet when there's business, and then
Yeah.
it's like, other than that, So do you get what I mean?
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean, and the merit of what you're saying, that essentially people are not programmed to invest in a relationship that would potentially be a destiny one, because they are wired to invest that level of energy into a romantic relationship. I do agree that there's an element of that, but I also would then question that, is it really a destiny relationship? Because I feel like destiny, there's a connectivity spiritually. There's just a deep resonance when you guys see each other, and it's like your spirits are talking.
Yeah.
And nobody needs to tell you otherwise.
Right.
That you're even propelled into energetically. What do you find yourself doing things for this person? What are you doing? Let me assist. And it's a force that's beyond the individual.
Okay.
Because it's to do with your destinies, not your flesh, not your egos. It's to do with your spirits and what your spirits are there to ascend in one another, that it ends up defying logic.
Right. So you think then that if there isn't that kind of inspiration and that energy around reciprocity and doing certain things, then it's unlikely. One would have to search deeply and assess whether this is actually a destiny relationship.
Yeah, I think so. Because a seasonal one would potentially have those traits where there's maybe a lack of understanding one another grossly, because I feel like lack of understanding is a natural thing with all types of relationships. But there's a lack of alignment that comes into being. I would give an example of like maybe I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but a destiny relationship in terms of like the level of connectivity was our friend who came, the YouTuber.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
that you meet and it's just a short period. It's literally for 1 week.
Yeah.
But in a space of 1 week, you
Yeah.
feel like you're so comfortable with this person.
Yeah.
You know this person.
And the level of what was accomplished is wild. Even when we think
Yeah.
about what we did in that 1.5 weeks, I'm still like, what?
And the lengths we were willing to go to, the push, like it defied logic. Like even I don't even understand what was that. Even you don't even understand what
Yeah,
because
that was wild, actually.
Like
Yeah, that was wild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, those would be relationships that have an element or an essence that is highly spiritual about them, that defies logic. And then there are just people who also, I have a friend who's currently under fire in terms of like their public image. Well, it's not a friend, but I just like to use the term friend loosely. But then you would hear so many stories about this person, but there's just something that defies logic.
Yeah.
When I'm interacting with them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, we're in the playground, friend. Hi, what are we doing? And the conversations are just always to do with our destinies. There's always a keen interest in how's that project that you're doing? How is Africa going forward? This is what I'm doing to ascend Africa. There's just always that element that, notwithstanding public scrutiny or it not being trendy to support that person or be in that corner, there's just a destiny essence about it that makes it so hard to ignore, that you're just like, okay, I don't know what's happening in the world, but I have an awareness of who I am and where I'm headed to. And it may not make sense for other people, but there's an incubation that my spirit feels when it's in the presence of this person. That when you look at the nature of God and how God works in the world, he works through man. If God wants to build Big Bang, he's going to use man. So the same way that there's a law of God and man and using man as a vessel to do his work here, I would like to believe that it would be the same in our lives. That God is going to use men to come and bless and enact certain things to take place. And that's going to be in the form of man. So
Powerful.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've clarified things for me in terms of, okay, were those destiny relationships, were they seasonal relationships, or am I, or maybe I'm just obsessed, or like I have my own issues with just one, maybe like attachment,
Yeah.
There's always that element that I have to think about now.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. So let's just get into it then. How does one identify a destiny relationship?
I think discernment. Discernment, resonance, feeling, instinctual feeling. Yeah, it'll tell you. Hey, yeah, I think that's one. How about
That's
you?
one. I mean, I know your own destiny,
Yeah.
because I think if you don't know your destiny, it's difficult to identify other people who where you may have a strong synergy, or they may be that alignment. So if you don't have that clarity of, this is what I'm meant to be or do,
Yeah.
it's hard to align with people who are in that same frequency.
Yeah.
And it does happen often where you meet certain people in life and you don't really get along, or you don't really connect.
Yeah.
And then the day that you come into yourself, all of a sudden they kind of reappear.
Yeah.
And I think that's an indication that at the time that you initially met them, you hadn't come to an awareness of who you are in your destiny.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to invest in identifying who you are and what your destiny is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful. In addition to that, I'll also say that knowing that your destiny helpers or destiny friendship relationships are not necessarily other people's own. So like your destiny helpers, friendships will not necessarily also be my own.
Yes.
Because I think we would be guilty of, let's say I experience you and it's just like, oh my God, this is so awesome. I want other people to experience it.
Yeah.
And like,
We've had drama with that.
and then they repel the person
Yeah.
or repel you. And it's just like, what is going on here? And then realizing that, no, this is a destiny thing. And I'm trying to project the impact and the vessel that is this person in my life and what they're here to do
Onto
and
another.
anoint onto another. And this is my grace, my anointing, my destiny relationship. And this person also has a very different destiny from me. So surely I can't use or project this vessel onto them because it won't have the same effect.
Yeah. That's powerful. And then when the going gets tough, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think what I thought about as you were speaking, I was like, it's so interesting how when it's a love affair, there's a lot of covering that we do and a lot of protection that we do with a love affair. So it's like you would get married and you incubate yourself spiritually before the day of the marriage, leading up to the marriage, after the marriage, you're in deep prayer, you're in deep meditation.
Therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a deep spiritual investment that takes and a deep spiritual incubation with love affairs that we don't put in friendships. And you'd find how like you and your husband or your partner can have like a spiritual attack in the relationship for whatever reason. But relationships, love affairs, marriages, you married people know, Jorge, there will be trials
And tribulations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's to stay on course and to fight for it and to also just be in prayer, visit the pastors and all the like. But when it's a relationship, and if you've used this model of seasonal relationship or a destiny relationship, I even think even with a seasonal relationship, in order to harness all that you can from that seasonal relationship, there needs to be like some covering of the relationship and some intention set to say, if the season of this relationship is 2 years, it's 5 years, it's 3 months, let us mostly get what the seasonal relationship is here to serve, as opposed to the flesh and the ego distracting itself from the purpose of that relationship, and to really setting the intention through the power of the spoken word to say, this is what we want, we wish to get out of this. And even if you don't talk to the person, if you realize that, oh, there's a seasonal relationship, can't go like, oh, this is a seasonal relationship.
No, of course not.
Let's set the intention.
Of course not.
You can just sit by yourself in meditation, in prayer, and set the intention over the relationship to cover it with protection.
Absolutely.
As you would cover a love affair with protection. Because I think the blindness or the omission to do that is what makes rooms for chance. And chance will throw whatever it throws that is vibrationally, I don't know, connecting with whatever the friendship wavelength is at.
No, definitely. I think the idea of this episode is just to bring a consciousness to that. To say, because we don't place friendships at the same level as intimate relationships, there's a lot that doesn't get done that compromises the relationship and then ends up compromising your destiny, because there are things that your husband cannot do, there are things that your mother or your father or your family cannot do, and that this specific person that the universe has put in your life can do. So imagine that they hold the key to your manifestation, but you don't treat them with the level of honor, respect, protection, and all of that that you ought to. And like you're saying, you end up leaving things to chance. I think what's really important is also just recognizing when it's an attack as well. Because they do come, and people say things, people come and try to plant seeds, and it's important to just have that clarity to be like, okay, I hear you. However, I don't know that I agree per se, and I don't know that I even need to be engaging you in the first place. Having clear boundaries around even how other people will talk about this person, basically really just applying the same principles that you do to your spouse or your significant other.
Yeah.
Nobody can come to you and badmouth your spouse.
I know, right?
So how is it that you can allow then other people to badmouth your destiny relationship?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very fascinating paradox, but I think it's also rooted in Western culture as well.
Yeah.
Because African culture recognizes the power of community, and that it takes a village to build a person, and that, you know, every part of life you have different helpers there for you, and one relationship isn't romanticized or placed on a higher level than others. Your mother is just as important as the aunt, as important as the uncles, you know, as important as the cousins. It's a cool African way to be that I think is in alignment with the universe and the universe's intention for life in that sense, and our experience of it through other people.
And one other powerful thing that Apostle Joshua Salmon said, he made reference to procreation, and he was like, procreation requires two people, the masculinity and the femininity interplay of that to then incubate the baby spiritually, physically, and then bring it into this world. And he was like, procreation is just, well, I don't know if he said this, but my interpretation of it was, procreation is not just limited to a baby, a physical baby. Procreation can be spiritual, can be business plans, can be projects.
Powerful.
So it would need the synergy of whoever is needed for that project, the destiny, friendship or relationship, to procreate that. I mean, look at the sapiosexual platter.
Yeah.
It took the procreation of you and I, our masculine and feminine aspects, where it's like, my masculinity, action-based, let's do this, I'm going to just do. Your femininity, I'll mobilize this and I would organize this, and this needs to look this way. I prefer this culture, I prefer this background. And it's the masculine and feminine interplay of that then gave birth to the sapiosexual platter, something that would have never possibly even existed if it didn't take us procreating and creating the baby. So it's just to say that people should have a spirit of discernment about who they are and where they're headed, and allow for the miracles of God or the universe and the magic of the universe to come into their life through people, but being able to discern the people that are there to bring that magic and the people that are there to put you forward. Don't be quick to cut off relationships that are there to set your destiny, because that would then have a direct impact on your destiny. So sit in the spirit, sit in yourself, listen to yourself, meditate, discern, and decide, and move forward with that. My name is Belsa Abo Ame.
I am Shatani Samalakai.
And you've been watching
The Sapiosexual Platter.